The first thing people noticed was the limp, not the steady hands, not the calm eyes, not the way she carried herself like someone who had seen worse than a bad day at work, just the limp. Every morning in the fluorescent-lit corridors of a large veterans medical center in the United States, the whispers followed her like a shadow. Some smirked, some pitied her, some mocked her quietly when they thought no one important was listening. By the time the elevator doors closed, the judgment had already been passed on the limping nurse who moved slower than the rest. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories where the truth eventually rises above mockery, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this deserve to be heard. Her name was Hannah Whitaker, and she had learned long ago to walk with her pain instead of against it. The injury came from years back, from a life she never talked about, and from memories she kept folded deep inside her like carefully wrapped glass. To the hospital staff, she was just another nurse assigned to post-operative recovery, someone who moved carefully, who leaned a little harder on one leg, who never joined in the loud laughter of the break room. To some of the younger interns, she was an easy target, the nurse who would never run if things went wrong, the one who clearly didn't belong in a fast-paced trauma wing. Hannah heard the jokes. She felt the glances when she passed by. She noticed how some patients' families looked uncertain when they saw her approach, as if wondering whether someone broken could really take care of someone else. Still, she showed up early every day, checked her charts twice, memorized medication schedules, and stayed late when others rushed home. She had a way of speaking softly to patients without using words, of adjusting a blanket just right, of noticing fear before it turned into panic. These were things you could only learn if you had once been on the other side of the bed. The day everything changed began like any other. A gray morning, rain streaking down the hospital windows, the smell of disinfectant heavy in the air. The staff was on edge because a group of active duty service members was scheduled to arrive for evaluations and follow-ups. Among them was a Navy SEAL captain, a man whose reputation seemed to fill the hallway before he even arrived. His name was Captain Michael Reeves, and stories about his leadership, discipline, and battlefield experience circulated quietly among the staff. When Hannah was assigned to assist with post-evaluation care for the group, a few eyebrows lifted. Someone muttered that they hoped nothing went wrong. Another quietly laughed, glancing at her leg. Hannah pretended not to notice, as she always did. She checked the room, prepared the equipment, and reviewed every detail until it felt second nature. Her limp was more pronounced that morning, the weather making the old injury ache, but her focus never wavered. As the hours passed, something unexpected happened. One of the service members began showing subtle signs of distress, signs so quiet they could easily be missed. A change in breathing, a tension in the shoulders, a distant look that had nothing to do with physical pain. While others focused on charts and schedules, Hannah noticed. She adjusted her approach, grounded the patient with small, steady movements, and prevented what could have become a serious episode. No alarms blared, no dramatic rush followed, just a crisis that never fully arrived because someone recognized it early. Captain Reeves had been watching. Not openly, not obviously, but with the trained awareness of someone who never stopped observing a room. He saw how the limping nurse moved with purpose. He noticed how the soldiers responded to her presence, how their shoulders relaxed, how their breathing slowed. He recognized something familiar in her posture, in her eyes, in the way she positioned herself instinctively to protect, rather than just to treat. Later, as the staff gathered in the corridor, the usual hierarchy filled the space. Doctors discussed outcomes. Administrators nodded, nurses waited. Hannah stood slightly apart, as she always did, shifting her weight carefully. A few quiet chuckles surfaced again, someone remarking under their breath about how the hospital must be short-staffed to assign someone like her to elite soldiers. Then Captain Reeves stopped walking. The hallway fell into an uncomfortable stillness as he turned, faced Hannah Whitaker, and did something no one expected. In front of doctors, nurses, interns, and staff, he stood straight and raised his hand in a formal salute. Not casual, not playful. Precise and deliberate, the kind reserved for deep respect. The mockery died instantly. Hannah froze, confusion flickering across her face before she instinctively straightened, her body remembering something her mind hadn't prepared for. Her return salute was imperfect because of her injury, but it was real. It was muscle memory. It was truth. The air felt heavier, charged with questions no one dared to ask. Captain Reeves lowered his hand and nodded once, a quiet acknowledgement that spoke louder than any speech. Without explaining himself, he continued down the corridor, leaving behind a group of stunned onlookers and a nurse whose past had just brushed the surface of the present. The rest of the shift passed in a haze. No one laughed anymore. No one whispered. People looked at Hannah differently now, with curiosity instead of dismissal. Some avoided her gaze, suddenly aware of how little they truly knew. Others watched her walk away, noticing for the first time that her limp didn't slow her down as much as it seemed. It simply meant she had learned a different rhythm. What most of them never knew was that Hannah had once served as a combat medic overseas, years earlier, under a different version of herself. She had carried wounded soldiers through dust and chaos, stabilized injuries under fire, and made impossible decisions in seconds. The injury that caused her limp came from dragging someone else to safety, a moment that ended her military career but not her sense of duty. When she returned home, nursing was the closest way she knew to keep serving. Near the end of the day, as Hannah finished her rounds, she paused by a window overlooking the rain-soaked parking lot. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen not for what she lacked, but for what she had survived. The salute wasn't about rank or recognition. It was about understanding, about one warrior recognizing another, even when the uniform was gone. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that you never know the battles someone has fought, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and let us know in the comments that these stories matter. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment the words, "Respect beyond appearances" if you believe that honor isn't always visible on the surface. Hannah Whitaker returned to work the next day with the same limp, the same quiet dedication, and the same steady hands. But the hospital felt different now. So did she. Sometimes the loudest lessons come not from speeches, but from a single, silent salute that reminds everyone in the room to look again, and to look deeper.